Welcome to In Search for Wellness. Eden's Cellular Wellness Solution is presenting to you a story on carbohydrates. I have prepared a story about concerning our carbohydrates as food and how we can interact with the carbohydrates and develop a healthy carbohydrate culture. We have heard that in Kenya and also in Africa, carbohydrates form a very big portion of our diet. A lot of carbohydrates per year in tonnage or in kilogram is consumed in a country or even in individual families. And so we end up per year consuming a lot of carbohydrates, which is a very important constituent of our diet. We cannot say because carbohydrates makes me put on weight, I am not going to eat carbohydrates anymore. Carbohydrates is very important and needed in the cells for energy and also for growth. This slide presents an example of wholesome carbohydrates. Some carbohydrates that are consumed all over the world, and others are consumed regionally as they manifest or as they are produced by the plants for us in a wholesome state. And carbohydrates which are very good and provide good starches for our daily consumption. Here we have arrowroots. Arrowroots, as they are called, roots that grow deep in the soil. And the whole plant has to be uprooted to harvest an arrowroot. The starch in arrowroot is very, very, very good. It is very good because it is not broken down very easily. It is not digested quickly. It is not broken down quickly into glucose to shoot the blood sugar. And consumption of arrowroot as a starch source is good because it presents good sustenance of glucose in the blood. These are whole maize. Maize is greatly used in Africa and many other parts of the world for starches. Maize in his wholesome state and refined is also very good carbohydrate source because it provides, as a grain, it provides oils, it provides vitamins, it provides proteins, and it also has complex carbohydrates that break down very slowly. This is rice, consumed greatly in the world as a refined rice, but in essence, it's best to consume it unrefined. Potatoes, Irish potatoes are known. These are a type of legume. Legumes also provide starches, but they are greatly known for their protein content. Bananas are loved greatly all over the world in their ripe bananas because they provide glucose for immediate energy when they are ripened. But in other parts of the world, like in Kenya, we also bananas are used in their green states, green bananas. They are used as starch sources. Corn is used as a vegetable in very many parts of the world, but we know that corn also provides starches. It also provides wholesome starch. And corn, like in popcorn, it is popcorn is a very healthy snack. So here, this diagram, it shows us that it is telling us it's good to know our wholesome carbohydrates that support wellness. It is in fact very good to know how to choose our wholesome carbohydrates which will support wellness. In a modern life system where most of our starches is coming, we get most of our starches from the supermarket and most times in the refined states. It is important to know our wholesome carbohydrates so that we can be able to make the correct selection. In search for wellness, Eden Cellular Wellness Solutions has prepared for us the story of the carbohydrates, the story of our carbohydrates, which are very important parts of our food. And in this section, we are going to look at the healthy carbohydrate culture. Healthy carbohydrate culture. And you ask ourselves, what is a healthy carbohydrate culture? What is a healthy carbohydrate culture? In the last section, we are looking at the danger of the high refined starch diet. High refined starch diet. And after being consumed for so many years, 20 years, 50 years, 40 years, we have looked at the dangers of a high refined starch diet and how, because of exposing the body for too long and for many years, high glucose spikes in the blood, how it develops or generates a carbohydrate mechanism, a carbohydrate metabolism that is out of the norm. But after being in that status for a very long time, one may not realize that one is in a problematic carbohydrate metabolism. It's only when the body starts failing or when one starts feeling this and that, and diagnosis is made, and one is found to have a type 2 diabetes. But before we reach to the point of experiencing or manifesting a type 2 diabetes, that is why we are talking about this carbohydrate story, so that we may really check what is it that one can do to establish a healthy carbohydrate culture. Because of our high African because of our high carbohydrate African diet, many of us will find that we fall very easily into the culture of unhealthy carbohydrate culture or out of the norm carbohydrate metabolism, which produces spikes of insulin and sugar continuously as a roller coaster, which also influences one's behavior towards food. And so in this section, we are going to look at the healthy carbohydrate culture. And if we can catch or appreciate the importance of this story of carbohydrates towards our wellness, and a person takes the initiative and the responsibility to move towards developing a healthy carbohydrate culture, it means that one, we will cut short or control the factors that leads to one developing a type 2 diabetes and other difficulties which are brought by excessive presence of insulin in the blood cells. So what is a healthy carbohydrate culture? The idea here is to aim at developing a near constant glucose level in the blood. We have seen that the high refined sugar diet will always spike the glucose level in the blood, always. when it is completely digested, it will shoot the sugar quickly and will give us that spike. But to develop a healthy carbohydrate culture is to aim at developing a near constant glucose level in the blood. Instead of having that spike, if this is the straight line, then one may have a behavior pattern that is more near constant. And again, the other mission or the other aim is to control release of insulin from the pancreas. Control release of insulin from the pancreas, and also prevent overworking this organ. We have seen that if one consumes, when we consume the high sugar diet for so many years, in 40 years, we will have overworked the pancreas, and we will have exposed our muscle cells to insulin for a very long time. And the muscles will have become insensitive to insulin, and they cannot take up the sugar anymore from the blood. So the other aim in order to develop a healthy carbohydrate culture is to aim at controlling release of insulin from the pancreas and also protect this beautiful organ. You have seen before how powerful this organ is. It serves a very powerful digestive role. And so it is very important by our food culture, our carbohydrate food culture and metabolism, to protect this wonderful organ. So how are we going to achieve this? We achieve this by consuming wholesome starches or blends. Consume wholesome starches or blended starches. It is possible to blend your starches with a higher portion of unrefined with refined. And at this all the time, ensure that you consume wholesome starches. And you can also blend the starches. The other thing is to ensure that one controls the amount of food that one eats. Control and regulate the amount of food that one eats. If one is not working in a shamba, if one is not digging for 6 hours or 7 hours, and one is not in the mjengo business, putting up concrete all the time, it means that one only requires a small proportion of starch amount. One does not need mountains and mountains of starch, of carbohydrates. Even if it is unrefined starch, it has to be regulated. So it is important to use a medium-sized plate. And again, the other step is to serve the correct proportions. Serve the correct proportions of a third of each, but in moderation. We are looking at the story of carbohydrates, which is our food. And in this section, we are looking at the healthy carbohydrate culture. How can we develop a healthy carbohydrate culture? We have seen the problems that are brought about by the high refined starch diet, and they develop within us an out of the norm and healthy carbohydrate culture that has brought us many problems, very many problems that are affecting very many people today. So this first slide, we have looked at what can we do. What can we do towards developing a healthy carbohydrate culture? So we have talked about the proportions that we serve on our plate. We have said a third of vegetables. So for example, if this is your plate, a plate is a loud plate, ensure that you don't use the biggest dinner plates. We have some plates, and at times they are used in the hotels, very big plates, very big dinner plates. But then we also have another medium-sized plate. Ensure that you use in your meals a medium-sized plate. If you have got only big plates in your house, please ensure that you buy other smaller plates that can be used by the family members in every meal. So because the plate is round in shape, and the idea is to divide in your mind three portions of the plate. So every portion is a third, the other one is a third, and the other one is a third. And so you serve third of the vegetables. And the vegetables should be about 3 to 4 types of vegetables cooked together. One of the powerful ways of healing cravings and indulgences and breaking the unhealthy carbohydrate culture is to supply the cells with high density of nutrients. Vegetables is one category of foods that provide us with very special nutrients. So in the preparation of vegetables, it would be good if one can manage to cook 3 to 4 vegetables together. In Africa and also in Kenya, we have particular category of vegetables that cook differently. For example, managu and sukuma wiki, and kude. Those greens are at times hard to cook, and they may take a little longer, where they require high heat for a little bit longer with very little water consistently. We know that spinach, cabbage, carrots, zucchini, broccoli, cauliflower, French beans, pumpkins. These are vegetables that can be steamed. They can be steamed and cook faster. So when you are cooking, look at those indigenous vegetables that are hard to cook them together. Spinach can be steamed together with the other vegetables, which are very easy to steam. And steam 4 types of the steamable vegetables together so that they don't stay for too long. And also steam them so that they can preserve their flavors. So we are saying a third of vegetables. One portion of the plate that you have divided takes a third of the vegetables, takes the vegetable portion. And you say that you serve a third of wholesome starch or blend in the other third. So for example, if it is rice, many people complain about brown rice, and they say brown rice is not nice, doesn't cook well, people don't like it. In fact, in most markets, you'll find there is very little proportion of brown rice supplied as compared to the white rice. But I encourage people greatly to incorporate some brown rice in their diet. If you find it difficult to cook brown rice and you think it is not palatable, please, I would encourage you to mix it in this proportion of 1 cup of white rice, 3 cups or 3 portions of brown rice. Brown rice is very easy to cook. What you do, select your brown rice and wash it well, and then get some water, equivalent amount of water, and bring it to the boil. When the water is boiling, pour your portion of brown rice into the water and let it boil for about 15 minutes. When it has boiled, remove it from the water, remove it from the burner, and sieve it on a sieve. And then prepare all the flavorings for your rice. You will also have measured the one portion of your white rice. So prepare your onion and your oil on the sofria and any other flavorings that you want to make into your rice. And when it is ready, now measure your portions. For example, you have 1 cup of white rice to 3 cups of brown rice. Now measure the usual portions. The usual portions, for example, about 5 cups, about 5 cups of water, about 5 cups of water, or just the normal way. You cook your rice in the normal way that you cook your white rice. Measure the waters in the same way that you measure the water of your white rice. And when it comes to boil, when you have added to your flavors, when it comes to boil, put your white rice and your brown rice together and mix them, let them cook together. When the water has subsided, reduce your flame or your heat to the minimum, and you cover it and continue adding water stepwise in a slow way with a spoon until all your rice is cooked. And there you will have your brown rice separating well and tasting very nice. And after that, you'll never stop eating it. So the next, so we are talking about a third of the wholesome starch. If it is your brown wheat flour, mix your brown wheat flour with your brown flour. Wholemeal flour with your refined white flour, and bread it in a portion 1 to 3 to help you mix the dough. Or if you can still work with unrefined brown rice on its own, go ahead and do that. For the people we make ugaris with our maize flour, we use the same portion of refined maize flour to unrefined maize flour. This means that your whole starch meal, their whole starch proportion is well blended, is completely whole starch, or it is blended for those who are not able to use or to have a complete wholesome starch. But one is really encouraged to make this effort. So the other portion of the plate goes to the protein source, which is either legume source, lentils, beans, or any other kind of legume that you use, or either it is chicken, or it is fish, or it is beef, whatever meat source that one uses. And again, ensure that it is in moderation, not mountains. Even if it's a third portions, not mountains. It is in moderation. So this kind of serving, you increase the nutrient supply per sitting. It increases the nutrient supply per sitting. And this increase in nutrient density is what goes to develop the healthy carbohydrate culture, because it goes and stops the roller coaster metabolism. It also stops the cravings and the indulgences. We are looking at the healthy carbohydrate culture. How can we develop a healthy carbohydrate culture? Carbohydrate metabolism influences wellness and longevity in a very big way. In a very big way. Carbohydrates are very important, very, very, very important food category, and it affects and influences metabolism, and it also influences wellness and longevity in a very big way. Throughout the videos that we have looked at, we have addressed these details. The glucose-insulin relationship is a very vital mechanism. This glucose-insulin relationship is a natural mechanism. It's a natural mechanism. And this is the way the insulin has a responsibility of regulating the amount of glucose. This is a control system. This is a very powerful control system. And they are saying it is a very vital mechanism. It functions to regulate or control carbohydrate metabolism. So the glucose-insulin relationship, it functions to regulate or control carbohydrate mechanism. We are looking at how we can develop a healthy carbohydrate culture, how we can develop a healthy carbohydrate culture, how we can change our own food culture so that at the end we develop a healthy carbohydrate culture that facilitates wellness. Consuming excessive carbohydrate per sitting per year is a scientific abuse to this control mechanism. We have seen that the insulin-glucose relationship is a control mechanism. It's a very vital mechanism, and it is a control mechanism. It is a control mechanism, and it is very, very vital. And with understanding, it will help us to be very careful and to take care of our carbohydrate metabolism. And consuming excessive carbohydrate per sitting per year for 40 years, this is a scientific abuse. This is scientific abuse. It's just the same abuse, abusing our body cells, just like we may abuse with drugs, we may abuse with the alcohol, we may abuse with tobacco, consuming excessive sodas, excessive ice creams, excessive sugars, high carbohydrate diet, just because we say that I like sweet things. I have a sweet tooth. It is not that one has a sweet tooth. One has become a captive of the wrong carbohydrate metabolism. And this is why what we are saying, it's a scientific abuse. We are abusing our bodies. We are abusing this beautiful sugar control mechanism that God has put in place within us. And controlling what carbohydrate and how much of it we eat will help the pancreas in a healthy way. So controlling the type of carbohydrates that we eat and how much of it we eat will help the pancreas in a very healthy way. So these kind of steps will go far into improving our wellness and the wellness of the organs, the wellness of the cells of the pancreas in a very big way. But we know that when this mechanism fails, when this sugar insulin mechanism fails, one has to depend on drugs to control the sugar, or one has to depend on insulin for a very, very, very long time. And this we know how dangerous sugar drugs are. The drugs that we consume for controlling sugar, they can bring a lot of damage in the mechanism if they are not properly administered. Insulin, if it is used excessively, and especially without somebody having eaten any food, it also can bring incredible disaster. So the idea here to develop a healthy carbohydrate culture is to protect our bodies from falling into the prey of type 2 diabetes. So if you are reading this and you are 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, please, the aim here is to protect our bodies from falling into the type 2 diabetes. So when this mechanism of the sugar insulin, when it fails, body wellness is greatly affected. And this affects many organs, including the brain. The problem of sugar metabolism is a very serious wellness issue. It's a very serious wellness issue. And the blood problems, diabetes problems, we know it affects all the organs. It affects the heart, it affects high blood pressure, it affects the kidney, it will also affect the brain. And when we look at this and we educate ourselves a little bit more, we will see that an unhealthy carbohydrate culture is a threat to one's life. It's a threat. One may not have been diagnosed yet to suffer from type 2 diabetes, but when one feels that you have these cravings, and suddenly it is very important to address that situation. And that situation, when we take that action, it is an action that goes to protect your body from developing type 2 diabetes. We are still going on with the story of the carbohydrates, which is the story of our food. We have seen that in this part of the world, in Africa and in our country, that carbohydrate plays a very, very important role towards our wellness. And we can no longer ignore our carbohydrates. And here I'm saying thank you very much for your participation. Thank you for your participation in the story of our carbohydrates as it influences wellness in our bodies. This story may help us enter into a place of carbohydrate metabolism that leads to wellness. I trust that this section has been helpful. Developing a healthy carbohydrate culture is an important step in one's journey to wellness. I wish you all the best in your journey to wellness. This story has been created by Eden Cellular Wellness Solutions.